because now we are joined by Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer. It is Charlie O'Connor, live at the Wells Fargo Center. Chuck, wild game tonight. Thoughts on the game and any standout comments from the availabilities?
Yeah, it was a wild game, huh? So much really to break down out of this one. I guess first I'll just say something brief about the game. Like, it is fun to have a game with this much that happened, and it feel like it actually had stakes. It's fun. Like, they played a good all around game, I would say overall, against a really good team. And it's fun to look at this game and be frustrated that they didn't win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, 2-3 years ago, this would have been like, whatever. The Panthers are just better. This is a game that the Flyers could have won if a few things, namely penalties and goaltending, would have went their way. It didn't, and people are frustrated about it. And honestly, that is a dramatic improvement over where things were a few years ago. Okay, getting that out of the way. Now, you asked me about comments. Well, the interesting part about the comments was that there were no comments. John Tortorella did not do a post-game press conference. He sent Brad Shaw out there. So that is the interesting thing. I can't tell you that he said anything interesting because he said nothing. Do I know why? No, I don't know why. Obviously, we asked Flyers PR. Our expectation is that we're going to get the head coach. We did not get the head coach. We asked for, an explanation. We really didn't get one. You can speculate as to why. My speculation would be that John Tortorella was very, very angry, and he didn't want to talk. That said, I mean, just because you're really, really angry, you should still have to talk after
He's
games.
mad at the refs, and he's mad at the goaltending, and he doesn't want to incur a huge fine or alienate his goaltenders again. Like, that's very obvious.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's the post game story, which is there was no post game comments from the head coach, who is required to speak after games. So there's that.
Oh man.
All right, well, that makes this a little different, but then in your opinion, because I want to talk about the goaltending, but first Joel's penalty in the third. I know that they want teammates sticking up for each other, and when it happens, I'm like, hell yeah, man. Stick up for your teammates, but there is always time and place. Like, we talk about this team learning to win, doing things at the right time, being smart at the right times. What did you make of Farabee's penalty, sticking up for Travis Sanheim at the end there?
Honestly, and like this probably won't get anybody excited because I'm going to kind of split the middle here, as I tend to do. Look. This is who the Flyers are. They are always going to do this. And you just kind of have to accept that, like, sometimes there are going to be some negatives. Like, they so value the idea of sticking up for teammates that they're just going to keep doing it. And if it means they have to kill an extra penalty here and there, so be it. It's going to be their view. We asked Nick Seeler after the game about it, and Nick Seeler basically said, he implied that, like, he didn't think Farabee should have gotten an extra penalty, but he said, look, we stick up for each other here. So that's what we do, and I'm not angry at Joel. I don't think Joel did anything wrong in that situation. He did exactly what he should do. So the players are very much on board with the idea that, hey, Travis Sanheim took a hit that was a little borderline. I don't think it was illegal, but it was close. It was close, but it was borderline. Joel Farabee does what everybody on this team does, which is stick up for his teammates. Was it a bad move strategically in the moment, given where it was in the game, tie score late in the third period? Honestly, yeah, it was. Like, it probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but that's this Flyers team. Like, it's so ingrained in their mentality that you just kind of have to deal with it because they're just going to keep doing it because they value standing up for teammates as much as they do. Now, just like John Tortorella, we didn't get the opportunity to talk to Joel Farabee, even though we asked for him, because apparently I think his name was on the board and then it was erased, whether that's because he was on the table getting injury treatment or whether it was because he just didn't want to talk. I don't know. We're not sure. That said, we did not get a chance to talk to Joel Farabee to get his side of this. I can understand Nick Seeler's point that maybe that Farabee shouldn't have gotten the extra penalty. That said, if you really break down the tape, what happens is Bennett does the hit on Sanheim, which, again, borderline, but I don't think is a penalty. Then Farabee cross-checks him, which is a penalty if you want to call it that. And then him and Gustav Forsling get the matching roughing penalty. So I don't think that was necessarily called the wrong way. Could they have tossed somebody an extra penalty? Like, did Sam Bennett do anything in that sequence that could have gotten a penalty? Sure, but you can theoretically call a penalty on every single player in a scrum if you want to. So there's obviously a gray area there. For me, yeah, this is a situation where if you're purely looking at it from what was the best thing for them in terms of winning this game, Farabee probably should have let that one go. But the culture that they are building, the mentality and what they want their players to have, I don't think there's any other way that could have went, because this is just the way the players on this team operate. They are going to stick up for their teammates whenever possible. Like, it's kind of one of my favorite podcasts I listen to, which has nothing to do with sports. It's like a history podcast. They brought up a concept where it's like, you can always go back in history and you can say, like, and I'm going to get real nerdy for a second. You can say that, like, well, yeah, if Napoleon wouldn't have invaded Russia, then the entirety of world history would have been different. And that's true. But given Napoleon's ego and everything that built up to that moment, was it actually possible that he could have made a different decision? Probably not. That's just who he was, and that's the person that he was at that moment in time. And I kind of look at the same thing with the Flyers and Joel Farabee. Like, could Joel Farabee have made a different decision there? Sure, he could have, and the Flyers might have been better for it. But could he actually have? I'm not sure, because that's just who he is and who this team is. They're going to do this, and you just kind of have to accept it.
This is why we love Charlie.
This is. I was going to compare you to another writer who used to make inferences like this, but it's not a good comparison, Chuck.
Okay, good.
Anyway, there's like I said, a lot of things could have gone differently tonight, but really, this comes down to goaltending. Is that how you see it too?
Yeah, well, the goal that Kolosov gives up when they're a 5-4 is horrifyingly bad. It's really, really bad. That's actually a frustration point as to why I really did want to talk to John Tortorella after this game, is because we were told yesterday that Sam Ersson was available for this game, that he was cleared. Now, not only does he not start, he isn't even on the bench. He's not even the backup. So it would have been great to have clarification as to whether, is he still banged up? Was he ever actually cleared? And then was he then uncleared? Or is this just still precautionary? If it's still precautionary, I guess I get it. That said, then why did you go out yesterday and say he was cleared? Because Sam Ersson would have given this team a better chance to win this game, I do believe, even given the fact that he hasn't played for, 3 weeks? Given the goaltending they received in this game, hard to imagine him being much worse, because Fedotov never looked comfortable. I'm actually not going to kill Fedotov on either one of those goals, to be honest with you, because the one's right in front of him after Forster gets burned. The other one, he's got a massive screen in front of him. That said, he probably could have done a little bit more on both. Never really looked comfortable in the game, so I don't have a problem with them pulling him. Kolosov never really looked comfortable either. Even when he was making saves, I didn't think he looked great. And then obviously that fifth goal is horrible. If he stops that puck, very, very good chance Flyers win the game. The only reason why I'm not going to pin the game entirely on the goaltending, though, for the Flyers is because I don't think Spencer Knight played well either. Yeah. So it's kind of one of those games where both goalies stunk, or I guess all three goalies stunk, because the Flyers threw two out there. So I don't want to just be like, well, the only reason why the Flyers lost is the goaltending, because if I was doing a Florida Panthers podcast and I was talking to their post-game show and the Panthers had lost this game rather than won it, I'm sure their version of Bill Matz would be asking me, is goaltending the only reason why they lost that game? And then I'd be like, yeah, Spencer Knight didn't play well. So this was just a game where goaltending all around was bad. That said, Kolosov needs to make a save on that shot. Like, he needs to. That is a horrible goal to give up, especially at that time.
Can you imagine a Florida version of me?
Oh my God.
Like that, there's no way that guy's employed.
You'd be Cuban.
There's just no way that guy's employed, Charlie. Anyway, what did you make of, like, at the time, were you thinking maybe Fedotov, when he doesn't come out for the second period, there's a possible injury? Like, what did you make of that decision at the time?
Well, I mean, I was primarily focused when they came out of the tunnel. I was primarily focused on Travis Konechny, because he got banged up at the end of the first period. Ryan Poehling got banged up at the end of the first period. So I was more looking at that. Then you look over and you see Fedotov is sitting on the bench. And then you look over and you see Kolosov's in goal. Usually if a goalie's hurt, they're not sitting on the end of the bench to kick off a period. They're usually in there getting treatment. So I never really thought in my head that there was a chance Fedotov was hurt. Once I saw him sitting on that stool at the end of the bench, I was like, damn, they really pulled him after that period. Like, it wasn't great, but I didn't necessarily think he was so bad as to warrant an early hook. That said, it did work, I guess, because the Flyers had a really good second period, and the second period tied 4-4, had a really, really good push overall. So if you're looking for them to respond to the goalie pull from a momentum standpoint, I guess that worked. The only problem is that Kolosov didn't play well either. Like, that was therein lies the rub. The other goalie wasn't good either, so, damned if you do, damned if you don't, right?
Hey, Charlie. So Alexander Barkov scores the third goal 3 minutes into the period. And then 4 minutes later, that's when we get the first goal of the night there. Within those 4 minutes, was there a moment or a play you thought that really turned the momentum to the Flyers side?
Not really. I think the Flyers played well this entire game, truthfully. I thought the first period they played well. They gave up a couple goals, they had a couple breakdowns, and Florida's a real good team, and they can take advantage of those breakdowns. But I thought the Flyers outplayed the Panthers through the majority of this game. They outshot them. They outchanced them. They probably should have outscored them if they get one more save by Kolosov in the third period. So I don't think there was any one moment where I said to myself, yeah, the Flyers are taking this game over, because I think they were probably the better team through most of this game. Like, they had the puck more. They generated higher quality chances. So I think it was less a matter of them turning the tide and more a matter of them just continuing to do what they were doing well all game, and then they just finally got rewarded.
Charlie, you put out a piece today. Read it at allphly.com. Sign up to be a diehard. You put out a piece today, a couple of the biggest disappointments to start the year. First two names you mentioned, Owen Tippett and Tyson Foerster. Foerster gets a power play goal. He's now got 4 goals and 6 points in his last 9. Tippett, 2 goals, both from Mish tonight, in 25 seconds to tie the game. 3 goals in his last 2. Should we credit you with their big night and kind of turning their season around?
I mean, no. You shouldn't credit me. I'm sure the Flyers would not credit me. No, I think the Flyers have been playing well, and those two guys, I even mentioned in the article that Tyson Foerster, I actually feel weird saying in the article that he had a bad first 25 games, because while overall he did, I think he's already in the midst of his turnaround, and tonight was just an extension of that. Owen Tippett, on the other hand, he had a real good game, but what it seems like is happening with Tippett, and what's really exciting, is that chemistry with him and Michkov is finally starting to emerge. It seems like they're finally getting on the same page in terms of knowing where each other are on the ice at all times. And that's huge. Like, that's huge for the Flyers, because number one, it could unlock Owen Tippett. Number two, if that's the case at 5-on-5, suddenly Matvei Michkov becomes a heck of a lot more dangerous at 5-on-5, as opposed to just being super dangerous on the power play and in 3-on-3 overtimes. So it's a really big development for the Flyers if that holds. Tyson Foerster, though, I think he's already in the midst of a turnaround. Like, that play in the first period, obviously, the one where he gets burned by Evan Rodriguez, not the best, but he redeems himself in the second. And I have this in the piece that I'm writing on tonight's game. Like, that's just a matter of, like, he's in a bad spot. Now, he could have played it better, but he's in a bad spot because Zamula pinches, and then Tyson Foerster's forced to basically play defenseman in a straight line when he's not a good skater in a straight line. Like, what did you think was going to happen? I think Foerster's been playing well. I think Foerster's finally starting to turn it around. So, no, I do not give myself any credit at all, but you should still read the article.
You should. Yeah, it was disappointing, that Foerster play. He falls down. Evan Rodriguez, Tyson Foerster, that is a skating mismatch. It was just disappointing because we just saw him kind of fight off Adam Fox a couple of games ago to make a similar play, but on the offensive side, and ultimately set up the Bobby Brink goal. I was just hoping he could play that puck somewhere, but he goes down, and it was just an unfortunate play. All right, Charlie, so you tweeted about this being a potential test game. If they were to hold on, it would bode really well in terms of, like, are they actually good? They almost do it. They almost pull it off, but ultimately they give up 4 power play goals, some lack of goaltending. So what's your big takeaway from this one? Like, okay, the Flyers they're definitely competitive, but would you go with the actually good label after this one?
I kind of equate this game, and I was thinking about this in the lead up to the press conferences, especially when I was expecting to get John Tortorella instead of Brad Shaw. I kind of equate this game to the Vegas game from, I believe, 2 weeks ago, either last week or 2 weeks ago. I'm not quite sure how it all lines up, but that was a game where the Flyers outplayed overall a really good team. It's just that really good team just seems to know when to make plays at key moments, and that's why they lost to Vegas. Vegas comes back, they tie that game, they win it in a shootout. This night, same kind of thing. The Flyers got the better of the majority of play, but Florida is a cup-winning team that seems to know how to get it done when they need to, and the Flyers are not there yet. I think the Flyers are playing quite well right now. I think they're playing their best hockey of the year. I think their structure has never been better this season, at least, and they have a lot of guys that are getting going. Michkov's playing real well. Maybe Tippett and Forrester are starting to get going. They have guys like Konechny and Couturier are playing well. They have their defense is playing pretty well. They're as good as they've been all year. But it does seem like against the really good teams, there's just a little something still missing. And that's enough for me to keep myself from saying that they are on their level, because they're clearly not. And Bradshaw even mentioned that after this game. But I think they're playing well. I think, if they play this well, the way they play tonight against probably 95% of the teams in the NHL, they're going to come away with a win. Florida's one of the best teams, if not the best team. They need it to be a little bit better, and they're just not there yet, both in terms of avoiding mistakes at key times and just keeping the pedal to the metal and not letting, a team like Florida off the mat at any time, because if you do, they're going to make you pay for it.
All right, Charlie, it is now time for your 3 stars of the game. Hit us with star number 3.
Yeah, I kind of go back and forth because, basically what it's going to be is there's going to be 2 Flyers and then 1 Florida Panther. I think I'm going to go with Owen Tippett here, and you could probably make a case that he's second star or first star, but 2 goals, big game. Thought he made some really good plays. On the one goal, even though it ends up being set up by the really good pass by Michkov, it's Tippett who creates it initially with a really good forecheck to start that whole play. So this wasn't just like, because I'm thinking back to the goal that Tippett scored against the Blues. That's the easiest goal he's ever scored. That's all Matvei Michkov. Owen Tippett just happened to be the real fast guy who got down the ice. This game, Owen Tippett was an active participant in the chemistry of that duo and the goals that were scored. And it will be huge if not only Owen Tippett is finally starting to get going from a goal scoring standpoint, but also he allows them to unlock more of Matvei Michkov at 5-on-5. If that duo, that chemistry can hold. That's huge. Great sign for the Flyers. Owen Tippett, 3rd star.
Star number 2.
Star number 2 is Matvei Michkov. Great game, 3 assists. He's again the rookie leader in points. He just seems like he's a guy where he steps up in big moments. That the end of that second period, they end up down 4-2 because of the weird Lawton penalty. It looks like kind of that might have halted their momentum, and then boom, it's just like Michkov just sort of decides, nah, we're not going into the second intermission tied or down 2 goals or down a goal. We're going to go in tied, and that's what he did. He's a great player. 3 assists, 2nd star of the game, Matvei Michkov.
3 assists in the second period, Charlie. First teenager to have a 3-assist period since Matt Tkachuk in 2016. Star number 1.
Yeah, star number 1 is Matt Tkachuk. 5 points in the game, 1 goal, 4 assists. Also, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but kind of similar to the Jordan Kyrou play, hell of a sales job on that penalty where they halt the momentum when the Flyers are down 3-2 and swarming. He draws what is probably a BS penalty on Scott Lawton, but hey, he drew it, and then immediately Florida scores to make it 4-2. Look, that's part of Matt Tkachuk's game. It's been part of all the Tkachuk's game, like even dating back to Keith Tkachuk. He did that crap too. That's what they do. It's part of why they're effective players. He finishes with 5 points. His team wins the game. You just got to tip your cap sometimes. He's a really good player. He's an annoying player, but he's a really good player too, and he's 1st star of the game.
Yeah, absolutely, Charlie. That Scott Lawton penalty, the officials should be fined for that, honestly. Like, they weren't paying attention if they called that. Anyway, that is the Philadelphia Flyers number 1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor, coming to us live from the Wells Fargo Center. We will talk tomorrow for our 4 p.m. show. See you then, Charlie.
All right, see you guys.
We all silly like the mayor.